All right, markets are on the move a little bit today. Some of this, of course, is maybe coming over from a little bit of the Trump pump. We'll take a look at this a little deeper and find out if that is actually the case. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. I want to thank our sponsor today, and that is Coinbase. If you're brand new to crypto and you're thinking, maybe even if you've been in crypto for a while, maybe you're just looking at a place to start to acquire or accumulate some of your altcoins or whatever it might be, Coinbase is one of the best places to check out, the most trusted name in crypto. You can go over there and buy, sell, use crypto alongside millions of Americans and U.S. businesses. So check it all out. This is one of those places that I think if you're concerned about security or you're concerned about just the idea of trading on an exchange maybe you don't know about, this is the place to check out. So go to Coinbase.com, use our link. You're going to get $200 in crypto as a reward. So check it out. Let's go over into a couple of the tweets today and take a look at what's happening in the market right here. Breaking PCI or PCE inflation. The Fed's preferred inflation measure was 2.6, above expectations of 2.5. Core PCE, though, fell to 2.5, in line with the expectations. And then now PCE inflation is flat. So PPI is rising a little bit. Many people will look at this and say, oh gosh, this is going to put some pressure on Chair Powell to maybe not cut rates. Inflation continues to be a little bit stubborn, even though it's in the 2.5 to 3.0 range. I'm going to zoom in on that for you guys. Getting inflation down to the 2% target is going to be difficult. This is something that's been said over and over again, is that whether or not the Fed can actually get to a 2% is the question mark. The problem is the data that is starting to come in on the Fed, and that includes jobs, real estate, some of the macro elements that really could drive us into a much deeper recession. So things playing on this is getting into the stock market. And one of the things that hits the stock market right here is how investors look at their current positions. So right now we got a lot of U.S. execs dumping stocks at their fastest pace in at least the last 10 years. This is a big concern. And this is something you probably heard me say with a group of investment managers that I work with and our colleagues. It's interesting because they've come back so many times over the past couple of weeks and saying this is one of the most dangerous times they've seen in a very, very long time in terms of the investment environment. So some pretty big issues right here. To put this in perspective, 10-year average of this metric is around 26%. And you can kind of see this is the movement that we're talking about right here. That's a huge drop in versus the average in just disposal of stocks. So basically going to cash or possibly repositioning that. I want to go to a clip real quick because we've got a couple of clips for you today. And this is the NASDAQ CEO talking about inflation and its impact on IPOs. Take a look.
And we got some pretty stunning GDP numbers in today, 2.8%. We got higher quarterly PCE than had been expected, 2.9%. We got lower jobless claims than had been expected. What's your view on the economy here, and do we need rate cuts?
Yeah, I mean, at the highest level, the economy continues to be quite resilient. Now, we are seeing that inflation is coming down, and so it's coming down and normalizing. You're seeing GDP growth slowing, but still robust, which is fantastic. But you are seeing the higher cost of capital start to impact larger parts of the population. And citizens are really starting to be impacted by that cost of capital. You know, you do have a pretty big delta between GDP growth and the cost of capital. So there is an opportunity there for the Fed to start to think about how do they moderate that and get that more in line. Now that even though, PCE maybe came up a little bit higher, it's really still coming down quite precipitously from last year.
Do rates and IPOs, is there an inverse relationship there? I would imagine if rates are high, then the cost of capital from private credit lenders is higher, and you might prefer an IPO, and the opposite must be true.
Well, actually, I would look at it a little differently. So when investors evaluate a company for an IPO, they look at what is the potential future earnings of that business, and they do what we call discounted cash flow analysis. And if the cost of capital is higher, they're going to discount the future cash flows more. Why has the IPO environment been so difficult? It's because the cost of capital has gone up precipitously. Investors have a hard time modeling future cash flows. Now we're starting to think that perhaps the cost of capital could moderate. That makes it easier for them to predict future cash flows. And we actually think that could be a catalyst for more IPOs going forward.
Now, remember, IPOs making onto the market opens up a couple of things. One, of course, it opens up fresh meat for investors going into certain categories, whether it's energy, tech, etc. But also, you look at how many of these companies are starting to raise capital. Now we've seen, obviously, crypto being one of the categories that starts to do that outside of the VC market. So I think there are some variations here that will impact crypto long term. IPOs are one of them because we have had a little bit of a sleepy zone on IPOs over the past bit. So it could still put some pressure on crypto. Talking about crypto and Bitcoin, of course, Bitcoin jumping 5%. Traders anticipating Trump's Bitcoin speech. This happens at Saturday at around 2 p.m. Over in Nashville. A couple of things that a lot of people are kind of looking at right here is the crypto lobby and long positions. Traders expect the Trump to announce plans for the strategic Bitcoin reserve if elected as the U.S. president in November. This will be interesting because whether or not he does this in Nashville, and I don't know that maybe he will, but I'm just thinking, I'm looking at, a chessboard and how the Republicans are trying to play this. Could they hold that for a little bit later in the campaign is my question. Now, they could allude to it, and maybe that's enough for some of the markets out there. But this is at 2 p.m. Central Time tomorrow on Saturday. Trump is set to take the Nakamoto stage over there, so he'll be able to talk about that. We'll see what he says. I'm going to be watching. Hopefully you guys will be as well. I might even do that live streaming and commentary on my X tomorrow. I don't know. We'll do something fun. Make sure and get some of the questions in over on the side, and we'll try to get to some of those as well. If you guys can send me the link up there in a minute. And then also we've got a poll going on, so I want to hear your input on where you guys think it's going to go. I'd love to get your feedback there. Here's the headliners right now. This is a pretty star-studded. Kudos to the Bitcoin conference team. I mean, to get Trump and RFK in there, Kathy Wood, obviously Saylor, but you got Russell Brand in there, Snowden, and of course Vivek, who I think is just a Bitcoin maxi and crypto maxi, I should say. So good for Bitcoin, good for crypto as a whole. I think blockchain is going to really win with that kind of agenda. And it will only do things like mainstreaming it to the point where a lot of people will start to understand what is happening in blockchain. So good stuff. CNB talks to Trump at the conference. This is what he had to say. Let's go to that clip.
Around half a dozen lawmakers, including a mix of senators and congressmen, are taking the stage. They're mostly Republicans, like Senator Haggerty from Tennessee, but we do also have a few Democratic representatives, including Ro Khanna. And of course, former President Trump is on the main stage tomorrow. I've been seeing a lot of Make America Great Again hats on people roaming the venue. But the institutional players who are here, they insist that the technology can thrive regardless of politics. But as much as Wall Street wants crypto to remain neutral, the fact remains that some Bitcoiners are dropping into this convention solely to enthusiastically back Trump. And look, I think both sides of the aisle recognize how close this election in November could be. The last one came down to 10 million votes, a lot of undecided younger voters, the type who might have crypto and care about crypto policy. And Frank, it looks like Trump is capitalizing on that.
All right, so this could be the swing point. And they are right. The younger voters, they're looking at some alternatives because they've been opted out of a system. In many cases, I think many of you guys watching our show, I know when we look at demographics, we have a lot of the 18 to 24 demographics. It surprises me, in fact, to see this many young people starting to move in the direction of political activism and just getting into the point of where they understand what's happening in the market and how it affects them. So this may be the point where Trump tries to pull ahead with that kind of connection. Now, Pompliano goes on. He talks a little bit about here in this clip about rumors on the idea of a Bitcoin reserve. There are so many things that would have to happen for this to occur, but strategically, it could occur, and that's something that's kind of unique. Let's go to that clip and kind of understand.
It's going to be a huge year. I mean, look, former President Trump is speaking. Rumors are that he is going to call for a national strategic reserve of Bitcoin for the United States. And if you just think about this, historically, we have seen very small countries. They've done mining. They've bought some Bitcoin in El Salvador's case, et cetera. You have a Malay down in Argentina who's been very sympathetic to Bitcoin. But for a developed nation like the United States to take a step closer to embracing something like Bitcoin, not necessarily to try to replace the dollar, but simply to say, hey, we think that this is an important asset. It's a scarce asset, and we should go put it on our balance sheet. That would be a massive historical moment. One of the things that I continue to say is it's like we took the U.S. Constitution and we wrote it into code. You know, one of the interesting things about the United States is that we have checks and balances. We kind of have the three branches of government, and we really try to focus that no one person or organization gets too much power in the government and can kind of do things unilaterally. Bitcoin is the exact same way. There are people who run nodes, there are people who write software, and there are the miners. There's kind of the three branches of Bitcoin. And so what ends up happening is no one that's an individual or an organization has too much power or control. And so the same way that the U.S. government has really kind of shepherded democracy and capitalism, Bitcoin has the same exact thing in a digital world in code.
All right, so whether you like Pomp, don't like Pomp, I think that little segment right there, hopefully Trump's advisors pull from that segment, because that, I think, if they represent something like that in front of not only the Bitcoiners, but in front of major media and also, I think, the nation, because people are kind of zeroed in on the Bitcoin conference right now, this could be a big step in the right direction. Now, without a contrarian, it would not be fun. So we got to bring up Peter Schiff. Only reason for Trump supporting Bitcoin is to get contributions and votes from the crypto community. I think that's pretty much the reason for most candidates. He's not worried about supporting Bitcoin, and he'll lose support from no coiners, people that don't have crypto. So it's a political no-brainer. So people that don't have crypto probably don't even care. But there is a large voting bloc, around 30 million right now in the United States, that have some sort of involvement in crypto. And I think that is a big enough voting bloc that it could swing the election, maybe more so than any. So be on the lookout for that, because I think this is a huge one. Now, he says that he doesn't think any of these promises will be kept, even if he goes with a strategic reserve strategy. But maybe this is the time that we start to see nations really starting to shift into blockchain. I think because of just what we'll see in RWAs and the shift in our financial system, BlackRock and all of the players within Wall Street, they already kind of get it. I think it's just a matter of time before DC gets it as well. I want to go to another clip here, and that is talking about the government and why they should own Bitcoin. This is Mr. Michael Saylor. Take a look.
Backing the dollar with Bitcoin?
Yeah. Well, I think you back the dollar by doing something economically rational. So when the United States actually purchased Louisiana and we expanded the country and doubled the size of it, we backed the dollar. And when Seward bought Alaska and we found $1 trillion of oil underneath it, we backed the dollar. And when we developed the port of New York City and we engaged in international commerce, we backed the dollar. So the country's got to look to the future, and the future of the country is in cyberspace, and Bitcoin is, in essence, cyber Manhattan. So the way you back the dollar is you buy Manhattan for pieces of paper and trinkets, and you buy it before it's worth hundreds of trillions of dollars, just like the Dutch bought New York for $50 worth of plastic beads. And so I think that it's right in front of us. The United States owns the majority of the gold in the world. The U.S. federal government owns 28% of the land, in the United States. The U.S. government should own the majority of the Bitcoin in the world.
So that would be very intriguing, I think, in the sense of freedom. If you look at Bitcoin or crypto in general, that I think could be a big challenge in the future of where we see nation states really starting to play into this, providing that they continue their way of doing business, in terms of governing the people. So I think that's still a question mark. I know we're getting into a lot of political lines, so I don't want to cross that too much, because it's crazy whether you're a Trump voter or you're a Democratic voter, whatever the route may be. I don't care. I just want you to get out and vote. So vote your conscience, vote what you guys want to do, because this, of course, hopefully guides a lot more than just policy around Bitcoin and crypto. Eric Balchunas comes in and says, ARK just checked, and yes, it looks like Michigan's pension now has bought up some ARK B. This, even though it's around 7.4 million, which is small, but the fact that they're moving, that's a good thing. I think we'll see more of that. Let me kind of zoom in on that for you. I've noticed that my screen is a little bit choppy on the playback, so I'll try to zoom in on those. Here's Jersey City will also make 2% Bitcoin allocation to its pension fund. This came in from the mayor of Jersey City. So these are acts that are real. These are things that I think a lot of people maybe discount of what is happening out there. And to Saylor's point is that getting on the ground floor of anything in any era always makes a class of citizens wealthy. And it's just because those are the people that went out there and risked it all, thought that they might be able to change their way of life. And maybe that gets ready to happen right here in blockchain. I think it will. That's why, we spend so much time on it. Here's Frisaro talking about Bitwise's Ethereum ETF banner going up just outside the iconic facade of the New York Stock Exchange. What a great view that is, to see mainstream Wall Street with an ETH ETF. This is surreal to me. 2 years ago, I don't think anybody would ever believe that we would see these kind of moves on Wall Street, much less having presidential candidates speaking at the largest conferences in the industry for blockchain and for crypto. Why Wall Street is still wary of DeFi, this I think is going to change pretty quickly. Many reasons why, but some of the key ones right here. For the uninitiated, it's like crypto's world of the version of financial services on autopilot. And many of you probably are new to the channel. Maybe you're new to crypto and you don't really understand decentralized finance, but this really is, I think, one of the most free elements once that you go down that rabbit hole. If you are, any red-blooded American, any entrepreneur, anybody that's for capitalism, you're probably going to realize this is a new way of doing things. And I think this is something that Wall Street is going to find out as well. Going full-on decentralized tokenization just isn't going to be realistic or desirable for the banks. It's going to be all in when it comes to these financial instruments going forward. But where it gets really interesting is the tokenization market could hit a whopping, this is 30 trillion. That's all, what is that? A little less than 3 times the market cap of gold by 2034. We're talking about 10 years. That would be insane going forward. So lots of big opportunities here. For sure, it could be same kind of thing if you look at it really around the technology explosion that we saw in the early 2000s. But remember, there's a big dump on that too, as well. James Seifert right here, day 3 recap of ETH ETFs, over 3 days of Ethereum ETFs, see net outflow of about negative 178, but total assets for the group sit just shy of 9 billion. Man, a $10 billion week, and it only started midweek. That's pretty significant for movement for sure. Not a bad showing. Even though ETH has been on a little bit of a slowdown. Let me go over to the charts real quick because I wanted to look at a couple of things. We'll take a look at ETH right here. Did get a little bit of a reversal right here. This was one we were showing in our diamond circle yesterday, is that we saw some sentiment movement and we looked at, hey, we might get a little bit of a reversal here. So ETH starting to move. Of course, Bitcoin already showing some pretty strong signs right now as soon as our indicator paints up. Still showing positive sentiment right now as it continues to climb. We may get this through the weekend though, especially with what's happening over at the conference. Lots of things happening for sure. What else did we have? We had a couple other things here. Arkham, 25 minutes ago, Grayscale transferred another 110,000 ETH to Coinbase Prime. So that's worth about 358 million. This may be the last of the flow. Grayscale really took a hit on this, but I think everybody kind of expected this, and it really is a repeat, part two of what happened with Bitcoin ETFs. So not too overly unexpected there. One other thing right here I want to hit on, and that is Solana. Look at this, flipping BNB in market cap. Let's take a look at the Solana chart real quick just to see. 182 right now. It's coming back off of its down. Right now, whoa, Solana is really cranking on sentiment there. So we've got trade MSI right now at 70%. Volume is up overall 71.94. This may be one of the highest signals we've seen in our trading indicator for a while. So could this be Solana's run to 200 again? I don't know. Let's go over to the poll real quick. I'll get to some questions real quick. We'll jump on to Polymarket, take a look, all that good stuff. After Saturday's Trump speech, Bitcoin will pump. Everybody's on the pump train. The Trump pump train right here, 68%. That's a strong. You almost have to bet the other way now. I mean, you just almost have to take it. It's just too juicy. You almost have to bet the other way. I wish that was something that was on Polymarket. Let's see what Polymarket's doing right now. Presidential election winner. Whoom. Boy, guys, the Harris camp is moving. 39% right now. If we go into the graph on this, this has been a pretty interesting move, really. I mean, if you look at this, this is really getting into a race. So we'll see things start to level out here. Trump started earlier in the month, around the 19th, at about 66. Now he's down around 60. This could be, let's see what this shows on Monday with what Trump announces on Saturday. We'll see. Maybe on Saturday and Sunday when we start to see the moves, we'll be able to catch a lot of that. Let's get into some of the questions. What do we have here? Carlos says, Arrow, altcoin pumping. Arrow, we had Tim on last week. We were talking about Arrow. He likes it. We're kind of still back and forth on Arrow. We've played on it in the essence of going in. Again, not financial advice, but just some of the things that we look at from a research standpoint. Do you think the ETH ETF will be updated with staking? Okay, so go back and watch our video with 21 shares. And we had their CEO on just this week. Go back and watch that because he gets into a lot of this. And if he's going this direction, you can imagine that a lot of these other fund managers are going to be going this direction. And what they're talking about is that. And it's just a matter of not if, but when. And he said that on camera with us just this week. All right, so you'd have to be a moron to bet against the upcoming. Mike, thank you. Robert Kennedy Jr. has the best understanding, I think is what you mean, of crypto. I would agree. I think RFK does have a good understanding of it. God, he's, if he had just been able to stay in the Democratic Party a little bit longer, he might have had a chance to get in there, but now too late. How much is Torres getting paid to delay? That's a good question. I don't know. Waiting for Bitcoin to go to 100K. Everybody is. I think everybody's looking at that as the signal. Where would you guys exit? If you owned Bitcoin today, I'm kind of curious, where would you exit your position if you were to exit? Maybe you're just Bitcoin forever. But what would be the position of where you might start saying, I'm going to take profits, maybe this cycle's over, and what do you think that's going to look like? It always dumps on good news. Miguel says, Trump is live at 2 o'clock Central Time. So that for those of you guys, if you're on Eastern, it's 3:22 now. So Central is usually an hour behind us. So there you go. 2 o'clock on Saturday, tomorrow. So be on the lookout. Saylor, being a patriot, gives up his Bitcoin. Wouldn't that be something? Not going to happen. So the few that hold millions of Bitcoin become the oligarchs of the U.S. Well, I mean, listen, that's how the Rothschilds, pretty much anybody in the history of the United States became who they are. It's also some of the biggest, I think, influencers and businessmen of tech. Same kind of scenario. I mean, if you look back and think Ellison, you look at Amazon, you look at Facebook. I mean, they're just early. That's all. They get there early. Yes, they get the rewards. That's kind of how capitalism works, guys. Will Trump blather on about rigged election or quote the great American Hannah? That would be the best, I think, because he gets going, man. This guy is crazy. I'd just rather him just get right to the point. This is what we need. Here's my stump. These are the things I'm going to do. Get out. San Diego says it's a pump until speech, selling after he competes his glorious speech. He's out of there. Janet yelled. I think you mean Yellen wants to buy Bitcoin. Yes, she does. Frank Allen says Harris is up by 20 points on Trump. People just making S up in crypto as usual. I hope that you are wrong, Frank, but if you are right, then I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to screenshot yours and we'll give you your flowers. Trump XRP. I don't know if Trump knows what XRP is, but maybe. Can PBN get a live stream on the Bitcoin conference speeches? You could, but I think they're streaming aren't they streaming on Rumble? I think they're streaming on Rumble. I mean, we could do that, but would you guys watch something like that, of some of the conference speeches? You could probably do it. Tomorrow, Trump will say whatever they want him to say after all. Okay, well, welcome to politics, guys. That's how it works. If you are a contributor to a candidate, they say what you want them to say. That's how it works. That's how, cheesy it is, and unfortunately, how dirty it is. That's just politics in America and always will be. I don't think that's the game. So some people out there think Bitcoin is the end game. I don't know. I think we've got a long way, guys. There is so much can happen in this technology, blockchain, what's going to happen both on the idea of what we're going to deal with on the future of Bitcoin and many other assets, including Ethereum, because I think Ethereum is still one, if not maybe the best solution out there for next generation technology. So, there's some good ones for sure. Man, you guys are throwing some comments in there today. Kind of crazy. But listen, the one thing you have to remember, I'll leave you with this, and that is that every person out there, besides your differences, whether you're Republican, you're independent, you're liberal, you're Democratic, whatever it might be, at the end of the day, you're all Americans. Hopefully you're going to treat each other right, do something nice for somebody this weekend, try to keep your head on straight and get out there and just have some fun. So anyway, if you're not in the Diamond Circle, you can have some fun there and chat with us. We, of course, have a great community over there. It is growing like wildfire right now. So make sure and use our link down below. It's a great place to start. I'm in the comments over there. So I do a lot of back and forth with people. We talk about all things altcoins. I don't really get into politics as much. We definitely look at trends, where technology is going. Check it out. You guys will love it, and it's free. So that's the best thing. Click the link down below. Follow me on X, @PaulBaron. We'll catch you next time right here on TechPath.